last webinar of the year on the 8th of December. And really our topic today is how to become an independent director for businesses on a growth path. And it's really about us adding your value to serving as independent directors. How do you add value to that? Welcome everybody to our webinar. I am pleased to really take this opportunity to introduce you all to our speaker, who is Mr. Taka Sande. He's corporate governance specialist for over 20 years. And his leadership experience is as an executive manager and a non-executive director. And he will be sharing with us so much more insight. And of course, the nice things that you can get more info about him on LinkedIn.
Thank you, Tobeka. Thank you, Chris. It's good to be here. Also, welcome to everyone who is joining us. Also want to thank the leaders of SEDA, IBASA, and also the Entrepreneur Planning Institute for having me today. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to your presentation and our conversation and the questions. And please, colleagues, all 87 of you, please feel free to ask questions. Any question, it is not a dumb question. And here's an opportunity for us to really explore this topic.
I see, Tobeka, we already have a hand, but maybe we'll come to getting some questions and input a bit later on. The really interesting part is what the poll results show us.
Exactly. Yes, I don't know if Eugene, that is on deliberate or is that in error, but anyway, let's just assume maybe that is in error because you're kind of getting the feel of the different emojis and reactions. But I see there's some feedback already. And yeah, so let's see, what does this look like? What does this say to you? To see at least 50% of everyone in this room, 51% are not directors or on a board of any company, but are interested in being one. So that's a nice, good number of people who are sitting there.
Right place to learn quickly because it's a webinar, and then right person too. Taka, really experienced as a non-executive director himself, I know. And also a certified director and in the space of training people to be directors. So I think we are really fortunate to have him here today to introduce us, you know, as business advisors that want to add to our arsenal of services to our clients and perhaps start service independent director on their boards. You know. But the second one is interesting, you know, sort of, so, you know, Taka, maybe you want to comment about that too, you know, sort of, that 2/3 of us say that the advantages are good, you know, that creates accountability for the senior executives and add competencies that the business otherwise may not have. So it seems that in our view is that it's kind of like a positive thing to have independent directors already in the place. So it makes your job to convince us a bit easier, I suppose.
Yes, Chris. I like the way the poll is showing. Actually, it's a true reflection of the benefits, you know, in terms of accountability, also competence that is brought onto the, you know, the business or company, also risk of bad decisions. But I also want to comment on the costs. I see there are few people who say that, which is correct, because it doesn't cost a lot to have a board. You know, I serve in some boards where I'm paid, you know, not a lot. So it doesn't cost a lot. Thank you, Chris.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And I think that's a good place to start, hey, Chris, to really hand over to Taka as we stop the share now on that thing. And we hand over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen. Right. All right. Can you see it? Is it visible?
It's perfect. Yes, thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for joining this webinar. I hope I'm not going to disappoint you. It's the last webinar of the year. So yeah, we have to make it count. And also, like I say, thanks to Chris and Tobeka for inviting me, and also to the leaders of the three organizations that are joining together to, to give this webinar. Today we're talking about becoming a non-executive director, in specific how you can become an independent director and also add value to your services. All right. This is some of the points, rather the topics I will go through from the introduction, background, and also to see the transition from small to medium enterprise to corporate, understanding board positions, Bruce, the board. So these are some of the topics that we will cover in the next few minutes. All right, this slide is about myself. I know it's a lot of information. I'm not going to go through it. You can read through it on your own time. But this just talks about what I'm doing, what I'm involved in. And the next slide is going to give maybe some more information around it. This one shows, in terms of my qualification, what I've been doing for the past 22, almost 23 years. Yes, I graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Science and Engineering in 1999. And I've got an MBA degree. I'm also a certified director, and I've got all the other qualifications that I have as well. All right, and in terms of what I've been doing, I think you can see from this slide, I have been busy. That's why my hair is turning gray. So I've been busy since the year 2000. I've been working various positions, but I want to highlight the positions that I am currently, or rather past. I've been a non-executive director of the Project Management Institute South Africa, also a non-executive director of the Greater Tahu Economic Development Agency, and currently I serve on the board of MSEP. It's a property investment company. I'm also an advisor with the National Treasury. I'm a commit member with the South African Institute of Civil Engineering. I'm also on the audit committee of the Capricorn District Municipality in Limpopo, so I'm also involved there. I'm also part of the nominee director of the IFC World Bank group, in terms of where they're investing, and also run my own business, Fast Food. I will talk about it later. So this shows that I've been busy, and yeah. And this slide, I've also included it just to show you what other associations I'm involved in. I think you understand why I showed this slide later as we go through the discussions. So like I say, I'm a certified director. I'm involved with the Institute of Director, South Africa, also the PMI, local, and also the international as well. So these are the various organizations I'm involved in. And here in Pretoria, also with the Capital City Business Chamber. So I believe these three slides, you have got a bit of confidence in terms of what I'm going to talk about, that I know at least something, around the issue of governance. All right, let's go to the background. Just to give you a background, getting appointed into boards, it's very competitive. I wish I can say it's easy, but it's not. But from statistics, we find that throughout the world, research shows that there's at least one person appointed to a board every year, because some people are resigning, some people, they get out. So there's an opportunity, but it's very competitive. And also, if you look at the slide again, in Africa, the average board size are a bit smaller, although I've seen here in South Africa a board with 16 members. Of course, it's government related. So in Africa, boards are smaller, but if you go to UK, Australia, USA, the boards are a bit bigger. Perhaps this talks about the resources that are also available. Also, I want to point out that the traditional way of getting onto a board is the old boys. So I've recently seen there's also an old women's club, that I managed to see, where all the members on the board are elderly women. And yeah, that's how it used to happen. But things have been changing recently, and there's now more opportunities coming on. This slide also released this year. It's a report by Hendrik and Strago. It's to do with the Fortune 500. It talks about 43% of seats were filled by first-time directors. This is in the last year, 12 months last year. So you can see that new entrants into the boards and governance space are coming in worldwide, about 43%, which is quite remarkable. And also on the second bullet, also there's also a focus on cybersecurity and IT-related competencies that are more on demand in terms of board skills. Right. Why do you want to become a non-executive director? Why do you want to serve on the board? There are many reasons that are there. Some people go in for money, which I think is not a good motivation because you may not find the money. Some, they say it's elimination of boredom. You've got nothing to do on your schedule. Then you start to, get involved with boards, which is a good reason. Some are giving back to the society, to our communities, to our country, in terms of giving our skills. Some do it for fun. Some, they want the challenge of being in a boardroom with difficult challenges that you need to resolve. Some, they do it just to network and meet other people who are influential. So these are some of the reasons why you may need, you are looking for a board position. And now, in terms of this slide now, rather the next few slides, just want to look at the transition from an SME to corporate. At the beginning, this is the slide that we are looking at. This is a small company where the owner is the shareholder, is the executive, is a financial manager, is the marketing manager, HR, everything, even research and development is the one person who is doing everything. But as the business grow, you may find that now you may, have perhaps a team that grows with you. You now have a number of people who are assisting you, and eventually perhaps you've got an institutional investor who comes in to inject funds so that you grow, and now you have shareholders. You've got some shareholders who are in the executive management, but you also have some in executive management who are not even shareholders. But now as the business grow, you say, no, let's upgrade, and have a governing body or a board that we have. Now you have these three that are intersecting. So you've got people in the board who are part of executive, some in the board who are shareholders, but not executive. So you can see those three things, they are coming together, and you'll find that the CEO is likely to be the one in the middle with a bit of shares in the business, on the board, as well as an executive in the organization. All right, let's look again at this information in a different angle. This is from the board titans. It's a good representation of how a business grow from as an entrepreneur, business owner. It grows. Now you've got the advisory board and owners, also executive board and owners, and eventually you've got a fully mandated board with the chairman and fully functioning board. So this just indicates the progression in terms of the growth of the organization. All right. Just to put the information in a different way, package it differently. Now we just show you in terms of level. Right from the top, we've got shareholders who owns the business. You've got the governing body or the board that have got control over the organization or company. And then you've got the executive who are there to day-to-day managing the business. Now, in terms of objectives, they come from the shareholders, they go through the governing body to the executive. But reporting comes also from the executive going up to the governing body and up to the shareholders. So this is typically what organizations look like. This applies in all organizations, whether you are a profit organization, a non-profit organization. I can just want to comment about non-profit organization. For non-profit organization, you might find that the shareholders are the members, of that organization. And we can apply the same structure again in governance sphere, whether it's local government or national government. When it comes to national government, even local, the shareholders are the people. We own the organization. We own the government or the local government. And we appoint the governing body that runs, whether it's national level or the local government level. So this is how it looks. This structure applies to all, organizations. Now, I added another slide that shows the family business, because as small businesses, we've got a lot of family businesses that are there, and there are issues that arise in terms of family businesses. And some of them, it gives rise to what we call a family council that we recommend, on rather that is on top of the shareholders, so that it deal with family issues. In other words, family governance, are we meeting for Christmas and all those issues? They are sorted at that level, social relationship in terms of family members. So all those issues are resolved outside the business, so that when we are at the business level, it's really business, and we put the interests of the business at the front. All right, now let's look at you guys. You are business advisors. You are advising businesses, and some of the businesses have got what we call advisory boards. So an advisory board is different from a corporate board. The reason being, an advisory board is a less formal association of individuals who are there to advise the business. And if you look closely at them, you find the members don't have fiduciary or legal responsibilities towards the owner or the business. So in other ways, if the business goes down, they are not sued, they are not responsible at all. They just give advice. Also, they do not have binding requirements or, in terms of their meetings. It's up to, how they meet. It's up to them to decide. They primarily advise and give feedback, and they're not involved in decision making. Also, they are also regarded as mentors, in terms of the business. So this setup is typically common for small business and startups that are starting up. But now, as the business grows, you now have a board of directors. This is a bit different. It's more structured, and there are things that goes with it. As here, the board has got ultimate power and holds fiduciary and legal responsibility on behalf of the company. So the board will answer for the company. And also, they are accountable to the owners, or rather to the shareholders. So in other words, you report to the shareholders. They conduct regular meetings, and sometimes some of the meetings are in terms of in terms of legal, you have to have those meetings. And also there's stringent compliance and structures that are also goes with the board of directors. And this is more suitable for, companies that are a bit big. Right. Let's just look at King 4 report. The King 4 report, if you are aware of it, there's got a specific focus, a supplementary for the small, medium enterprises that is there, that give advice in terms of how to apply King 4 in small to medium sized enterprise. So this is just a bit of what is from the King 4. In terms, it recommends professionality in terms of application of King, because sizes of companies, they vary, and also the resource availability and also complexity, it varies. Also, it recommends also a scaled up approach in terms of governance that is there. For example, in a small company, instead of having a committee, you may have an individual who represent that committee. So this is what King 4 recommends in terms of small to medium sized enterprise. And also in terms of the benefits of good corporate governance, King also pointed out some of the bullets. I'll go over them. It adds rather credibility and enhance reputation. Also access to capital and loans on better terms, because once you have got a board, there's an oversight that is there that comes with it. Also the management of risk, it's a bit more thorough. So, you get better terms in getting your loans, ability to attract talent or for employment, improve access to customers and market participants, better positioning to capture business opportunities, better fraud prevention. Remember the oversight of the board. You prevent a fraud, using that. Also business continuity arrangement, it's also their leadership continuity, also succession planning, because there's a board that is always there. So if someone is, there's a hole in terms of executive management. I remember in some situation where one of the board members, take up and fill that position for just interim until someone is appointed. So it ensures there's continuity, and also you plan ahead in terms of the leadership of the organization. And also better management of conflict, especially in family business. Yeah, family, there's a lot of fighting that happens in family, but when you've got a board, the board absorbs that and ensure that the business, it does not suffer with the family conflicts. All right, let's just look again, just to understand what board positions are. All right, there are very many, words or titles that are given to board position, and you can see that from the previous slides, I'm interchanging between using the word board, and I'm also saying governing body. But the official name is a governing body. And also the people who are there, you've got the non-executive directors and independent and non-executive directors who come to that. These are names that are given to there. Also, they are also called board members, sometimes a council member. If it's a trust, it's a board of trustees, or you are a trustee, and sometimes it's simply a committee or subcommittee member. And I believe you want to be in one of these positions sooner or later. All right, let's just look at the types of directors that we have in a board. In a typical board, you've got executive directors. Executive director, it comes from the word executive. In other words, they execute. They are there to execute. They are there on day-to-day basis in the organization. And then we've got non-executive directors. Non-executive directors are not executive. They are not there to work in the company on day-to-day basis. So in other words, they only serve in the board and they don't work in the organization. We also have what we call independent non-executive directors. Now, independent non-executive directors are non-executive directors who are independent of the organization. In other words, they don't have shares in the organization. They don't have friends who work in the organization or family. They are independent. They don't even do business with the organization. The reason being, we want an independent opinion from them because they are not influenced by what they get or don't get from the organization. We also have what you call ex-officio directors. These are directors because of their positions. You can talk about, let's say, the HR director might also become part of the board. We also have what we call alternate director, who are there in case a director is not there, the alternate stand in for that director. We also have what you call prescribed officers, who are deemed directors, in terms of the Company Act. So these are people who are, in terms of the law, they become directors. Let's say, for example, a business is going into financial challenges. The court might order someone to sit in that board, to serve in that board, by law. For example, I can say an organization that is involved in high risk, let's say business, let's say nuclear development, the law might say the government might have someone who sits in that board. So these are the prescribed officers who are deemed directors by law. Now, in a quick way, I just want to point out the general duties of governing, for a board. It's the focal point for corporate governance, sets direction and tone for the organization, approves strategy, policy, and business planning, appoint the CEO, and ensure that there is succession. It also oversees the implementation and the execution of the strategy. So these are the four key in terms of the duties of the directors, but there are legal duties that comes with being a director. In terms of the Section 76 of the Company Act, I think before the Company Act came into effect, we used the common law in terms of the duties of the directors. But the Companies Act Section 76 gives in the duties of the directors. If you can go and just refer to it. And also you find that Section 77 also talks about the liabilities of the directors. So the board acts as a team. So in other words, each director, you are personally liable, but also as a team. So it's very important when you are making decisions in a board, you are bound together as a board, but you can also be sued as an independent individual in that board. Also, just to talk about the duties as well, just to point them out, fiducial duties in other words, you are not to use your position to gain advantage or cause harm. There's also issues in terms of disclosure of information. You must act in good faith. You must act on the best interests of the organization. And then in terms of duty of care, you act with a degree of care, skill, and diligence that may, reasonably be expected from a person carrying out the same function, also having knowledge, skills, and experience. I think at this point, I just want to ask, do you think our boards, especially in the state-owned enterprises, do the board members have the right skills, right experience, and are they the right people to do this? I'm sure we're experiencing load shedding. It's a state-owned enterprise. What do you think? I wonder. Right, let's look at some of the actions that may lead to liability, breach of fiduciary duty, acting without authority, reckless trading, acts of defraud, false, AFS, and there's some of the issues that may lead to liability. Also, just to move now, just to talk about some of how you can be appointed to the boards. There are a number of ways that are there. You might be, invited to a board because of your specialties, that you have specialist skills. You might even represent a family or a certain interest, people that you represent. And sometimes you can join a board during a setup, and sometimes you can be recruited, through an advertisement that goes out, and then you are recruited. So these are some of the ways that you become part of the board. You can become part of the boards. And then in terms of what we look at, in terms of the attributes that we are there, these are some of the attributes: someone who is free from harmful association, integrity, sound judgment, someone who is analytic, conflict management. These are some of the characteristics that we look at. But when you advertise, these are the criteria that we look for: governance experience, industry sector knowledge, skills, and experience. So these are some of the things that will come out in a job spec that goes out for advertisement. All right. Just to look at yourself when you prepare yourself for board. Your network is very, very important. Sometimes you may have to review your behavior, your habits. If they are, it's got a negative effect in terms of your repetition, need to change some of your behavior, reduce or stop some of the association. Also, your digital profile, you might have to, change it a bit, delete some of the posts that you've posted, your comments or pictures as well, because it's not really nice to have a board member. Imagine a board member of an organization who's got pictures or every time with a bottle of drinking somewhere. It won't paint a good picture. So you may have to change that, and also your relationships as well. Some of the people, you may have to reduce your interaction. Right. Just also looking at your network as well. Make sure you connect with people who have a better chance of opening the door for you. So in other words, who are those people who can make, open doors for you? Connect those people. So connect with relevant people, join the relevant groups offline and online, the right people who will help you open the door. Also build the support network. Join and participate in the right forums. The Institute of Directors South Africa, it's a good organization. I believe accountants also have their chartered accounts. So they are very professional bodies that will actually help you. You may have to join certain clubs and be intentional in terms of how you spend your time. Remember, you are a board member. You want to be a board member. So you start to act like one. Just also to look at your LinkedIn profile, make sure it's complete, all your information are up to date, and also you highlight your skills and also your achievements that you have done on LinkedIn. And those 3 circles are there just for your own information. This is your dream position that you have, what the market has available, and what you can do. You can find that sometimes your skills don't match what is available. So this is just an indication of what might be available. Now, in terms of presenting your brand, these are 2 slides just in terms of your brand. Have your non-executive or your board CV on a great and persuasive CV, that you need. It's usually short, but sometimes if you come to state-owned enterprises, they may want a detailed CV. Have a cover letter. And also a cover letter has got parts that you need, to have in terms of the paragraphs. Also, you must have a board pitch, that address the key issues that you want to present. Also, show your passion, passion for the role, passion for the company, passion for the products and services that are there. Also, what is the proof that you've got a passion? For example, from my side, I work for some time in the human settlements area, development. So you can find that this is my passion. I want to see everyone being housed somehow, you know, whether it's a business or a family. So it's sort of my passion. You can see it on my CV. What is the passion? What is the proof of your passion? And then also the last bullet, learn the code. Each business or industry has a culture of its own. You need to understand, how do they dress? Which words do they use when they communicate in terms of their language? You know, what's the cultural experience, you know? So you need also to know about them so that you start to present yourself in that way. Also assess yourself, you know, your story matters. Assess yourself in terms of your advantages, disadvantages, and have a story. Tell a story about yourself, about your profession, about where you are coming from, where you are, and where you want to go. Your story, you use it in interviews, when you are networking with, you know, these influential people. You need a story that you tell that, you know, shows who you are and what you want to aspire to be. And by the way, your LinkedIn profile, your CV, your story, and your board pitch must align. Make sure these things, they are all speaking the same language. I'll give you an example of what happened. Some individual, it's a real life. He started his PhD in Australia. So in LinkedIn, it was showing that he's studying in Australia, rather he's finished studying, he's working in Australia. But if you look at his CV is saying he's based in Centon, in Joburg. That's what he presented to me or to us. But if you look on his Facebook, his pictures, he's in Cape Town. So you wonder, what is really happening with this guy? Is it real, or there's something more that is behind? So all these things must align. And also my last point is that on this, take rejection as a learning experience. So in other words, learn to take rejection and learn with patience. Develop a thick skin and make resilient your second name. So in other words, when you are looking for boards, you will be disappointed, you will be rejected, but you stand up, you rise, and you move on. All right. Now, let's say you want to be appointed, you know, you are getting there. You need to do a due diligence in terms of the organization. And also remember, as part of the interview, as more as the organization is interviewing you, you are also interviewing the organization. You want to know, who are these people? What do they do? So in other words, look at the business practices, financial stability, you know, conversations and that are there in the media, past, current, and even potential. Audited financial statement, do they have an integrated report? What are the past board minutes? What does it say? So do a due diligence on the organization before you accept the position. Also, in terms of board composition, do you really want to be associated with these people in this board? If your answer is no, then you leave them. But if answer is yes, then you go ahead. This slide just gives a bit in terms of the fees that are there, how they're structured. Different organizations, they're structured differently. We've got an annual retainer. This is used by large organizations. They have a fixed annual you know, fee that is there. You can have fee per meeting, another or per hour. Sometimes you are given equity or shares in the business. Sometimes it's voluntary, you are not paid, especially for non-profit. And sometimes it's a combination of the above, you know, that is there. And sometimes, you know, most organizations, you'll be paid for your travel and disbursements in terms as your expenses. All right. Also, as a board member, you also need to develop yourself, you know, study and read the right content so that you know about corporate governance. Also, be registered professional is very, very important. I know some of you may have a degree, but go for the, you know, postgrad, you know, qualifications. Go for a postgrad degree, master's. Go for a PhD. Those things, they add credibility. Also, be certified. If, let's say, for example, if you are in finance, a CA can make a difference in terms of your CV, or a professional financial planner. If you are in technical, let's say engineering, PR-Eng, you know, after your name, it makes a big difference. It brings trust and credibility. So go for it. And also build your personal brand in the governance space. Create content, write posts on LinkedIn, on blogs and various platforms. Also become a subject matter expert, in terms of governance, because this is now your space. So you need to claim your space. You need to, provide content in that space. Now, as I slow down, where do you start? Right. Start with your connections. They know you and they know what you can deliver. Also look for adverts that are advertised. And also, if you also go into nonprofit, it's more, easier to get into governance of nonprofits. Look for your professional bodies, go into the leadership, school governing bodies, special interest group, community policing forum, go into those committees, business forum, also homeowners associations, get into their boards. They also have community development associations. Sometimes you may have to start, one, so that you start to build your CV in terms of governance. All right, just to conclude my presentation, don't give up. There are ups and downs. Like I say, take rejection, take it well, learn from it, develop a thick skin, and make resilience your second name. Tell people that you are looking for board position, put an hour a week to search, and also define a target organization that you are likely, to looking to get into, and then continue to upgrade your profile. Thank you so much. I just want to end by saying this is my my profile, LinkedIn profile. You can scan, if you can, my QR code. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I always accept people. I don't refuse people unless you are very dubious, but I always accept people. Also, if you need more, more engagement on corporate governance, visit our website, aniveladvisory.co.za. Where we do corporate governance consulting services, board consulting services, and we've got a new program, the mentoring program for new directors that we are starting in this new year. So you're welcome to connect with me and engage with me. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chris.
Oh, wonderful, Mr. Taka. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Just to kind of give you a breath, we can drink some water while you just went through that presentation amazingly. And I just love your excitement and your passion of sharing this information. I think it was amazing. Thank you so much for your time. And it's amazing. Love your experience around this. And to kind of, while you're getting comfortable and just collecting your breath, and everyone, I love all the chats and people just sharing some insight in the chats section. I don't know what stood out for you there, Chris, in the chat before we go into the Q&A, because there's a lot of questions. There was already a question before Taka started.
No, I think the biggest question is if we are having load shedding, where do we get the recording? So I did answer that question in the text. So by the way, if you click on the Q&A button, you'll see there that there's some open questions that we will answer live, and then there are also some answered questions. So some of the questions we can actually type a question, an answer to the question, and that is one of them. So the link is there. The link is also in the text chat for you to find the Entrepreneurial Planning Institute's YouTube channel, where we post every month the recording of the CPD event that we've had. We also do the Biz Clinic ZA recordings. We post there for your convenience, or for your client's convenience, where business advisors answer the questions live of the joining small businesses. But we'll talk about those things a bit later on.
Yeah.
So that was
also the recording is on IBASA website, no? I think,
IBASA,
yeah.
On its website, yes.
Yes.
That
So
takes
we'll
to get there. Yeah. So if you want to quickly have a recap of the event, YouTube is the quickest. But yeah, so I see Johanna has a few questions there. Pindile, Maletsatsi, so we can tackle them. Perhaps if someone wants to speak to, we can bring them into the. By the way, it took a while for, I think maybe Tobeka was load shedding, but it took a while for people to arrive today. It took, but eventually we were 100 people in the room, so that's great.
Oh wow, I missed that.
Some of the challenges that we have, yeah.
Yes.
So, but in any case, sort of, so if you want to raise your hand, you can do so too and speak, or we can ask someone perhaps to elaborate on the question that they've posted in the text chat.
Yes. So if you feel brave and comfortable between Johanna Pindile and Maletsatsi, please feel free to put up your hand, or anyone else. So let's start from the top. The first question, I'm interested in knowing what it is to be a director. And I think you kind of touched that in a couple of slides. As a person, what you need to work on, what you need to develop formally, and the human skills, right? The important human skills that you spoke to, I think, are very important. I'm not calling them soft skills. I think they're human skills, to be honest. Yeah. Because that's part of our humanity as a person. So the integrities and all that you shared, I think, was insightful. You can stop the share, I think, for now, Chris, and we can take it from there. Awesome. And so that was answered. I hope you're fine with that. And as well as Pindile, are you affiliated? So this is a question to you, Taka. Are you affiliated in the same thing as the IDSA? Are you part of the Institute of Directors of Southern Africa? I think
yes, I'm a member there, and I'm also a certified director there.
Awesome. So Pindile, there you go, Mkiza. That's been
professional bodies is quite important though. So yeah, we also IBASA as a partner in this product that we're offering here. The CPD event is between SEDA, IBASA and EPI. IBASA being the professional body. So Taka, perhaps it is worth just pondering on that for a moment, sort of why professional bodies are so important.
Right. Thanks. It's a good question, Chris. It adds credibility to be involved in professional bodies, and also perhaps the first question, perhaps what I need to advise is, you don't just join one, you have a number of them, you are here, you can have other, you can add. That's why on one of the slides, I saw you some of the, professional bodies I'm involved in. So it brings in, so now because you are involved in that, you become more professional, and they've got webinars, they've got courses, they've got training that comes with that, and also for networking purpose. So you find that I'm known by all these people because I make sure that I write an article there, I'm there. So you also, you network best, it also grows as well. Thank you.
Yeah, and I mean, I think at a personal level, joining one first and being comfortable, if you're new at the space, it helps. It builds your confidence. It helps you see the big picture of things as well, especially if you're independent in an organization sometimes that you're not directly involved in. And then as you go along, you learn a lot more. I think that's the best school, actually. I think the best university is to be on the board and seeing the big picture of how organizations are run. And your insight. Thank you. And both, I mean, I've been on private and NGO, and they're very different. And I think some of the people kind of ask around that. Or Joanna asks, when registering an NPO that includes 3 family members, executive directors, and 4 non-family members, non-exec, will this be an acceptable format for an NPO? So that is a question for you.
So we asked Joanna to maybe explain a bit more the context of a question, if she doesn't mind. Joanna, is it okay? Can we ask you to allow you to talk? Then you can explain a bit more what the context is of your question around the NGOs. It's an important field too, governance of NGOs.
Yeah. But if you want to talk to it so long, is she here?
Yeah, she can speak.
Perfect.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, okay. So what happens with the NPO, you know that you need 7 directors to be on there, and they don't want family members. But the most NPOs are actually started as a family NPO. And then they come to, after a few years, they actually want to expand, and now they want to add other directors. And I need to know, does all the directors need to be executive directors, meaning they have an active part that they play, or can you pull in non-executive directors that you just pull in when you actually need their input. But is this then acceptable as an NPO? Because at SARS, they don't want family members to actually have that tax benefit. That's the question that I'm asking.
Yes, can I give it a shot? Yeah, it's a good question actually, and I think you can see why SARS is, recommending that direction. So I think it's better to use non-executive directors in that particular instance. So you find most non-profit, they've got a lot of non-executive directors, and also in the non-profit, people just can do pro bono, so you can talk to them and see how they can provide value and see what you can give them in exchange. So yeah, go for the non-executives.
Okay, thank you for that. I just want to know, if they are non-executive, they don't do anything on the day-to-day. Is it then really acceptable, because then the family still actually manages the whole NPO, and then the non-executive that's only called in once in 3 months, do they then have any power, and is that an NPO that you want to be a director in?
Yes, thank you. It's a good follow-up question, because they are all directors. So in other words, you need to register them with the CIP, they need to be as the directors. But like you mentioned in the first comment, you've got executive directors in none, they are all directors. They will be registered and recognized as directors.
Okay, thank you for that.
So just in that context, so we speak about the NGO. I see the reference to 7 requirements. How many directors does an NGO have to have? Taka?
I believe you need, you don't need 7, but they don't want connected persons. So
Yeah.
then the understanding that I've got, and this is maybe the question that I've got, if 3 are connected people, then as long as your non-connected people is more than 3, then it should be acceptable, isn't it?
No. So just be clear, we are speaking of a non-profit company that's registered at the CIPC.
Yes, that's right. That's a non-profit company.
Yes, I think the reason why they don't want a family, because remember, as an non-profit, you are getting tax benefits. So involvement of a lot of family, especially at senior high levels, it doesn't look, it seems like you're taking advantage of the tax benefit. That's why they don't want, connected or family members on those high positions, but they can work below within the organization.
Okay, so what you're saying is the family should be non-executive really, and not executive.
Right. Okay, maybe let me go again to my previous comment. Directors, remember, they can be executive or non, they are all directors, remember. So in other words, for your instance, I'm assuming perhaps you've got family members who wants to be active in the organization. So they don't have to be directors. So you bring in non-executive directors so that you don't have a lot of family in those high, positions. And then on the lower, then you can bring your family to work within the business. And remember, non-executive directors or the board, it's non-executive directors. They, like you say, they come in once in 3 months. You just get emails and comments and things like that. So in other words, they are not there day to day. So this is how you compensate to have instead of having your family on the board, your family can work within the organization, but not on the board.
Okay, thank you. I think you explained it very good now. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I also see Lebo's hand is up. I don't know if you've put Lebo in yet, Chris. And yeah, there. Go ahead, Lebo. You unmute.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Taka, for such a great presentation. I have a question. Often in the board space, the most favorable people tend to have more finance background. They are either CAs and so forth and all that. And I'm wondering, my background is human capital development. I'm in the training and development space. And you talked about being able to pitch your story and all that. I've done governance training and all that, but I'm trying to figure out how do I position myself and pitch a story that can add value to you know, a board of, you know, to a board. So talk to me around, you know, my board pitch. Talk to me about a source where I can be able to improve my profile or my CV to position myself as, you know, a preferred candidate. Thank you.
Thank you, Lebo. I was tempted to say, come to my office, but I'm here.
I will come.
Yeah, you know, you are the right level. Every organization runs on money and people. So you find that the most skill that is required on everybody is a financial skill, and the next is the human capital skill. So you are already on the top, you know, in terms of the required skills. So those are the most common. So you need to craft your story around that. For you, I think it's going to be much easier because you're human capital. Everybody needs a human capital expert indeed. So you need to work around that as you come up with your story. And remember, myself, I'm coming from engineering, so I'm not one of those top right from, but you have to work it out and see how you can present yourself around that.
But is there a resource that you can recommend, if I can ask? Where would, if I need to be able to get some pointers in terms of how do I put together those? Is there a place or is there a site that can kind of help me to be able to put together a proper board page or a profile that speaks to that? Thank you.
Okay, that's good. Okay, besides myself, you can also, Institute of Director, I've got some short courses, in 3 hours, half-day course around that, how to, you know, present yourself, how to prepare a CV. It's more likely what I've presented, but it's more of a course in the, and the lady who presents that, she actually works with you, you know, through the process. So either myself, and you can go to Institute of Directors South Africa.
Thank
There's
you.
a question. There is a question, another question in the Q&A too around the IODSA, Taka. So perhaps we can just address that, as well as Joanna's follow-up question, which was how to become a certified director. I think they're related, if I understand it right.
Yeah, they are.
All right. To become a certified director, there's a few requirements that you need. It's a course that you do. There's an exam that you need to pass. So it's a bit thorough. It's not an easy task. But before you go for it, you need, I think, NQ level 7, if I'm not sure, I think 7 in terms of your qualification. If you don't have it, also you need your experience to be have more experience in terms of executive positions that you have had. And then the training, it's a 5-day training. And then after that, you book for an exam. I think it's about 4-hour exam, 3-hour or 4-hour exam that you need to pass. And then you become a certified director. All this is done by the Institute of Directors, South Africa.
Great. And then the question follow-up is, do advisory board members get paid? And then are NEDs registered or listed on company documents like Core 14.3?
Great, it's a good question. Advisory board members are not, they don't have control over the organization, they are advisors. So they are not listed in the company registration documents, they're just there to advise. So the idea of having a board format is just to make sure that your advisors are organized, you know, put them in a board setup so that you can engage and discuss, and they are paid. But sometimes you may choose to do it voluntarily, you know, to do it pro bono, but they can be paid or they are paid.
Great, thank you. I love the next question, Ocean. What can I do as a shareholder to make the director to budget more for dividend payment or share on this current market environment? Well, there. Go ahead. I have a lot to say, but go ahead. Let me not.
Yeah, you see, as a shareholder, your interest, you know, you want a return on your investment. That's why I mentioned the point that we also have independent non-executive directors who don't have shares in the business, so that they give a sober, you know, advice in terms of how the business can grow and become better. But I believe as a shareholder, you want your return and you want the board to vote to say, this is the dividend you are issuing this year. Yeah, but remember also in terms of declaring dividends, if you are listed, there are also requirements in terms of how much debt you have and various. There are also some, things that you need, financial requirements that you need in terms of the level of dividend that you can, you can declare if it's a listed entity. But if it's not listed, yeah, you can. I'm not sure, but yeah. I wish I'm also paid that dividend as well.
Yeah,
Right.
it's an interesting thing before we have Akona respond just on going on that, because especially those who are not listed, right? It's between the health of the organization and the people and us getting our dividend payout as shareholders. So it's a very it's a very difficult ethical question. I say
but
that.
Rebecca, also remember, as directors as well, we need to make decision on the best interests of the organization. I think that's the underlying, what is the best interest of the organization, in terms of sustainability, growth, and, so you need to consider all the stakeholders that are there and see what is the best interest. If we just focus on one stakeholder, let's say shareholders, we give them all the dividend they want, and then the next year the business goes under, then we are not acting on the best interest of the organization.
Exactly. The sustainability there is at risk, right? And also the employees. It's I think for me, I always think, okay, the lowest common denominator of the organization, I would love for them to have a job a little longer, because I've had the privilege of being a shareholder and getting extra money. So that's a real hard question. And at times you're frustrated because of bread and butter issues. But yeah, so it becomes about that person who's the lowest.
Let's unpack this a bit more. I think it's a very practical question that smaller businesses often face in terms of boards, because rarely do they have independent directors. They often have directors that in the shareholders agreement stipulates, if I have so many shares, I can appoint a director, or if I have so many, appoint 2 directors. Now, if the director then serving the needs and the interests of the shareholder, because the shareholder is appointing their director, often if it's an individual that's the shareholder, it's also the shareholder that is the director. And how do we shift as directors, serving directors? How do we shift how do we wear these different hats in a way that shifting from representing the interest of the shareholder to the interest of the company, because the company is an entity that has got its own needs too, Taka, how do we deal with those issues?
Yes, it's a big issue, not just for profit company, but also in the state-owned enterprises. Because in state-owned enterprises, you are appointed by a political person, as a director. The shareholder is the minister. The minister who is appointed because of political position. So it seems, or rather, you are appointed for political reasons. It seems, So who do you please your shareholder who is the minister or the organization that you are serving? So, but by law, there's nothing that is against the law, but shareholders should appoint directors. But once you are appointed, you must make decisions on the best interest of the organizations. Remember, your liability is at stake. So you have to change and say, okay, you appoint me, but now what does they, because if something goes wrong with the organization, you will be sued. So, so you should know that although you have been appointed by a shareholder, you must now make decisions on the best interests of the organization. And in many times you'll find that some people will resign from the board when they find that there's pressure from the shareholder, for certain direction, but you see that it's not for the interest of the organization. So some directors, they resign and
On that note, on suing, Taka, the most important question there is, when the board gets sued, the differentiation of me as an individual getting impacted by that. Can you unpack that a little bit as well for that interest?
Yes, you can be sued as an individual as well as a board. So what I advise, what is very important is when you are in a board meeting, remember you can be sued as an individual, your liability. So in other words, if there is a decision that you see is not right, you have got a right to vote against that decision, and then it's documented that in terms of this decision, you were not part of it. Of course, it seems like it's breaking the team spirit, but remember, you will be called to account. I've done it myself, to say, no, I want it to be recorded. This is my opinion. And that is so that if something goes wrong, I don't want to be dragged with everyone else within that. So I would advise that this is the way to go. You need to make sure that you don't, it is recorded that you don't vote for this decision.
So then the full circle of that would be if they do sue the board, and there's 8 of us, for example, and you and I were like, no, we're not for that. The other 6 will be in the hot seat, and we will be like, I told you so kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm being silly, but intense. Okay. Got you. Thank you very much. Christoph, are you picking something up there?
And with Zako with text questions, and then Akona is still kind of on the list for speaking to.
So let's have Foster first, and then we have Akona, because Foster, I think, was there before.
That when Taka is asking in terms of rural communities and agricultural cooperatives, banking co-ops, sort of in that traditional community setup, how does directorships work there?
Right. On that slide, I also indicated that a director might be referred as a committee member. So these are community organizations. So what you need, you form your organizations, you've got a committee, that is the board, the committee. You've got your constitution, that gives direction, because if something happens, the court is going to use your constitution. Even the bank, in terms of opening bank accounts, they need your constitution. So you've got your constitution in order, you've got all the committee members, the different roles. So you are definitely the board of that organization.
Great, thank you. So we'll have a corner, and then I don't know if any of my colleagues would want to share or say something. Please let me know by obviously unmuting yourself if you want to share some thoughts. But otherwise, let me hand over to you, Akona.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your patience.
No, trust me, that's what I am. Mr. Sande here, he mentioned that you have to have patience when in this business. So it also starts in the meeting, not in the office. So for me, I just have quite one, just to give background on my side. I've just newly branched out and started a company. Now, on this, it's just something I've always wanted to do. So I finally found the courage. I'm glad it was mentioned on one of the notes. So now my first question would be, what is the advice for startup business that has managed to attain or acquire few resources, but lacks funding or the money capital? Because what happens is you'd find out that we do have the potential to go further. It's just that we just lack the funding. We've been approaching places, writing letters, sending documents, and patiently waiting for funding. But that hasn't been happening for quite some time. So and everything, you'd see that we'd have to do it from our own selves, where what we do is we'd find ways to what we call income streams to be able to fund whatever we want to do or events we want to do. And then was also at the same time looking forward and planning and strategizing that if there would be this funding, this is the budget, this is how it goes. So I'd just like some advice on that, like just advice on a startup business.
Are you registered as a P2I Limited?
Yes, sir.
And you've got directors?
Directors, yes, sir.
Who are the directors? Not the individuals, but are they like the people working in the business, or are they independent?
We are within the business. It's 2 directors.
Okay, so a new company needs money, 2 directors, 2 entrepreneurs started the business, raised the business, now they're the directors. How do they go about in resourcing the business? And I suppose the question from our perspective of the theme today is, what is the where does the responsibility lie to get the money into the business? Are the directors responsible for getting money into the business?
No, to be honest, like I said, we just recently started a company because we used to be employed. Now we were looking forward to be self-employed and doing something of our own. So whatever we do, we by how we raise funds, we find income streams, whether it's through marketing or through anything that can help us to further our goals or to further move forward with everything.
Yeah. No, thanks for that question. I think that's a very important one, because who's responsible for driving the sales? Who's responsible for making sure that the, I don't know, the shareholder contributions or the loan funds is in place, and those kind of questions. So Taka, if you can maybe that for us, please.
Yeah, it's maybe let me just say what we see, especially in the US with startups. We also learn from them, US type of startups. What they have, they most of them, they have an advisory board, right from the beginning, because they want to tap into knowledge and skills of those people who know these things. So I also recommend most startups just have an advisory board. They may not be paid, but have a number of people who can advise you as you go through starting up and establishing your business. And also in the advisory board, also put key skills that you are requiring, like you want funding. So what they do in USA, they make sure that the people who have experience in raising funds who are in their advisory board. So it makes it easy, to start up. I'm not sure, Chris, if I've adequately addressed the question. Chris, you are muted.
My daughter is on the way somewhere, and to say goodbye to me quickly. The funding thing is an important one, I think, sort of because is it the shareholders that are supposed to put in the money in the business if there's money needed, or is it the directors?
Because remember, in terms of the funding, there's equity that comes in other words, in terms of the share equity you put in the business, it's also funding for the business. But you can have investors who also come in, other investors, say the directors who are there can have an equity partner who bring in and also own. Also, you can do a loan, or a grant that comes in and fund. So there are many ways of raising funds for the business.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, Chris does his parenting thing. Like, we're all here with many hats, and we will not deprive him and his daughter to connect. And please, you do your thing, Budwam. And just on that, so let's see what Uzakona says quickly before we bring in our hand. Oh, the hand is down.
Yeah, we are.
And we are, oh geez, time has flown by. I actually lost track of that. So there's 2 questions. Does the board get involved in the daily operations of the entity, or do they just oversee? At what stage do they overstep the role of oversight?
Yeah, it seems like
so yeah.
Newspapers,
Yes, and I would like that question. I would like to ask that question in 2, whether it's a listed or non-listed. Is there a difference? Yeah, with that question, or is it actually a clear rule around that? Yeah. So let's leave that there, and then I will go into the next question. Go ahead.
All right. The board's responsibility is oversight. Okay. over the organization, right? But remember, in the board, we've got executive directors and non-executive directors. So you find that executive directors, besides having the oversight, which they do from a board position, they also have a day-to-day, responsibilities in terms of running the business. And then the next question was to do with, I just forgot, what was the other part of the question?
So the question I think is for the non-executive, right? So as non-executive, because the executives are part of the organization and they represent on the board. But as a non-executive, you are there for oversight. When do you overstep your role?
Yes, We have seen this
like
where the chairman is fighting with the CEO, especially in state-owned enterprises. Sorry to say that. I mean, it's there in the media. It's where the board is now micromanaging the executive, which they are not supposed to micromanage. So they start to they start to do a day-to-day like job. No, a board is not there for day-to-day executive role. No, it's oversight. So they should allow the executive. They should have let's say just not to be there on day-to-day basis, to micromanage what happened today, what happens tomorrow, on a smaller, I don't know, micro level. They should just provide oversight and guidance to the executive. So in other words, you guide the executive, the CEO and his or her team, this is what should happen. This is the direction, guys, go ahead. How do we support you? How do we help you? This is what the board is supposed to do, not to be there. I can give another example that may make it even clearer. It's different between a parent and a grandparent. Parents, they're there every day, like Chris, what is doing. But grandparents, they're not there every day. They just come and just give one or two ideas in terms of what you might change, and then they move on. So they're not there on day-to-day basis. So that's the difference between the oversight role and the executive roles.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then how do I appoint? I don't know, maybe Jean Martin would like to say this, and then we'll go to the hands. How do I appoint people for the advisory board roles?
I think it's also, first thing, it's based on the needs that you have as an organization. Perhaps you need to sit down with your team. What do you really need as a team? What's your strategy? That's going to inform you in terms of the skills. So first start with the skills that you need, for your business to grow. Then with those skills, now you look for people with those skills. I'll give you an example. Maybe as a business, you are going through a merger or acquisition. Probably you're going to want someone with merger and acquisition, knowledge and skills. Then you bring that person into the board of advisors. Or let's say you want to go into DRC. It's your strategy as a business. So you probably need someone who has worked in DRC or lives there as part of the advisor. So it comes from what's your strategy? Where do you want to go? What are your needs? And then you work that way.
Great, thank you. You know what? We're actually out of time. I'm so sorry, Nonguleleko and Lebo. I know your hands are up. We really apologize that we couldn't add you in there. But I think what's important is just to make sure that I'm sorry, that face of surprise. Thank you for that reaction. But to make sure that we all have the voices. Thank you so much, Mr. Sande, for your time and just sharing your insight and your knowledge. And of course, we will copy and paste again his information in the chat in the moment. Thank you very much, Taka Sande.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoy your Christmas. Drive safely. Have fun.
Thank you. And then on that note, I just want to share, I don't know if Uputbon is able to share some insight. He had something he wanted to say. I don't know if his audio will work, or would you like me? I'll see if you unmute yourself, or I could just share the message you sent to me to share with all our guests here. I don't know if also whether Mercy or Derek are able to share anything from IBASA's side, but I'll see and unmute. But Chris, do you want to say anything quickly?
Yeah, two things. The one is a long year, but we're out of COVID, so we are connecting with people again and positive about what we can achieve in the next year. I think specifically with our clients, there's a lot of talk and expectation of what the small business market needs to deliver in terms of our economy. Of course, if we don't have electricity, it's going to be difficult to deliver on those things. So hopefully those kind of infrastructural things are starting to be sorted out so that the work that we do with our clients can be productive, and a very important task. That is why we are here as the EPI, as IBASA, I know, as SEDA too, that we want to equip the practitioners that are supporting small businesses to be more impactful, that we can help those businesses to grow, whether they are in the townships or in the rural areas or in the city centers, doesn't matter, in the manufacturing or agriculture or some service provision, it doesn't matter. A big contribution to make. So thanks guys for all the hard work that you're doing with the small businesses. It's not always easy. And all the best for next year. So that's the first thing I wanted to share quickly. And the second, and I'll do a screen share for that. If that
Okay,
will work.
and then hand over to Derek after that. Yeah.
Is that this year we realized that more and more business owners were arriving at our CPD events for practitioners, and we launched this thing called bizclinic.co.za. So if you are a business owner, every first Friday of the month for an hour, the opportunity is there for questions that you have in your business, and we have business advisors from IBASA, SEDA, and EPI answering those questions. Some of the leading business advisors in the country. For January, it will be the first working Friday will be the second Friday. So that will be the 13th, not the week before. But otherwise, go to bizclinic.co.za and register there to get your reminder to join that event once a month. That is happening too. And then, of course, for the CPD events, we also are planning going into the future with more. In January, the topic is about how we can support our small business clients in raising business finance. It's a question we always get. There's probably the question we get most is, how can we raise money for our businesses? And we have Nikita Fenyana confirmed. We may have another guest for that event. So looking forward to working on our CPD offering next year too. So that's
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
From me for 2022.
Thank you. Over to you, Derek.
Thank you very much, and thanks to Taka for coming through. This was very insightful, and we are looking forward to more of these kind of sessions, and also to let everybody know that as IBASA, we had an AGM on the 1st of December, and we are looking forward to the great year ahead. And we believe that you'll be receiving communications with regards to what is the plan for the new year and what is expected, because we also want to make this CPD to work for you, not necessarily just to attend, but where we need to have points, systems that should just come clear so that you know that after attending, it's going to work towards your profession and any other area of your career. So we are looking forward to that, and we believe that this is going to work for us going forward. And please look out for any information or message from us. That would be more of announcements of any changes or any new developments that might have taken place. But otherwise, we say have a great Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we are looking forward to have you on board in the coming year. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much, Derek. And on behalf of our colleagues at SEDA, they're just having technical, some information. I just put it in the chat. Number one, on the Biz Clinic information, you'll find it on the SEDA website, www.seda.org.za. And they would surely love to wish you all a fabulous holiday, summer holiday, and family time as we going into the summer break. And please be kind to yourself. Please take care of yourself and be safe. And I love all the emoji and the reactions as usual. That's what makes me smile. And we'll see you then in a couple of weeks, which means the couple of weeks is December. And just really have a good rest and make sure you don't put yourself under pressure, because it's only 2 weeks and then we are stressed for another 11 months next year again. So please pace yourself. This is not your first December. We've had many. but I guess it is the first one since we had COVID and hecticness. So just pace ourselves and love yourselves and be kind. Thank you very much to all the colleagues. Thank you, Taka Sande. Switch on your video, smile for us again as usual. And for those colleagues, Bonnie and Pongi, thank you very much, SEDA, for always being here and supporting the space. And Derek and Mercy from IBASA, thank you very much. And Christoph, always been the best partner at work. And thank you very much. And Taka Sande, thank you very much for your energy and your experience and your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you guys in a couple of weeks. Have a lovely holiday season. And goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
And the spirit and the vibe and the humanity put that together for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Sending you all lots of love. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.